we're back with Bella. Bella, and I just figured out Bella can smile. When you say, hi, Bella, she smiles. So what we did in the first demo is we did a lot of her clipper work as far as doing her feet, her face, her tail set, and her sanitary area. So that's all done, and I used the Wall Bravera with the lithium battery for that. Now we're going to set our lines for her body. So she's actually, I'm kind of standing here looking at her, and she's actually put together really nicely. She's a really cute little girl. And anytime that you're going to work on any breed, it's always a good idea to know what the breed profile is. So if you do have to make corrections, you're not going to know how to make them unless you know what the structure of the dog is supposed to be underneath. Now, on a poodle should be square, so from the chest to the butt should equal the same distance as from the shoulder to the floor. So that's where you get that nice squareness. The tail set should be at like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, the least position, and the tail is usually set halfway between the point of hip and the point of rump. So other than her tail being docked short, she's actually got a nice little tail set, and the front legs are set under her. So you don't want a really straight front, you want the legs to be set under her, and that will kind of help shorten up the dog too. Now on her, the one thing that I do notice is right now, when I run my hand down her leg, she actually is kind of straight through her rear. And that's one of the beautiful things with a poodle is that if they are a little straight or don't have quite the angulation, you can create it with hair. Now what I would like to see is more bend in her stifle, more bend in her knee right here. So she doesn't have a lot of hair here to begin with. So we're going to try to take her back a little bit tighter in through here and leave a little bit more hock here. So we're going to try to give the illusion of her having more angulation than what she has in the rear. And her front actually is pretty decent, so we're going to start with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use snap-on combs to achieve this. And these are wonderful if you're doing this in your shop because it is such a big time saver. Years ago, I didn't like the snap-on combs because number one, they would pop off, they would drag through the coat, and I would always have to go back and re-scissor and fix. So for me, I would use them just to kind of set length, but I wouldn't do much more than that with them. But now Wall has these stainless steel combs, and I love them because you can get a nice enough finish that I don't have to go back and fix anything. So I'm going to set all of her lines using, I'm using the KM2 Speed clipper from Wall, and I have the number 2 snap-on comb, which is like a 3/8 length, and this is what I'm going to use to set in her body. Now I like leaving neck hair on dogs, on my poodles, because also they should be short-backed and they should have a very nice long neck with a nice arch to it, and just kind of add to that elegance that the poodle should have. So if I find her withers, I'm going to start a little bit behind the withers. So her withers are here. So I'm going to start about an inch behind the withers, and I'm going to kind of skim into her top line. That's a good girl. And I wanted to have a nice level top line, which she pretty much has, so I don't have to really do anything to recreate. If you have a dog that doesn't have a level top line, what you can do, and the best place to always evaluate them is in the tub, because when they're wet and they're standing in the tub, then you can see exactly what their conformation is. But what you can do with the snap-on combs is, if she had a little bit of a dip in her top line, I would probably go to the next longest length, which is the number 1, and I would fill in the dip with a little bit longer, and then I'd go to the shorter on the back end area, so that I could, add a little bit of fill to give her a nice level top line. So there are things that you can do. One of my old girls, when I would give her haircut.
Make sure your power is working. If you're having issues with any tables, please raise your hand.
When I would give her a haircut, what I would do is I'd actually stand her up, and I would take my snap-on and I would draw a straight line and then just skim up into her neck. And that way I could create a level top line on her doing it that way. So, but like I said, little Bella hair is actually put together pretty nicely. So what I did, I'm not really sure when she had her bath. She was a little bit curly when I started her. So I used a little bit of it's really good to use any kind of like an anti-stat or a very light mist spray, and I brushed her up with that, kind of slickered her up with that. So I combed through her already, and then you want to lift the coat, and then using my snap-on, I don't want to cut into any of this neck hair, but I want this to be a parallel line from her ear down. So I'm going to skim in through here and straight down into her leg. So I don't want this to elbow out or to baseball bat in. I want this to be a nice straight line from her ear down into her leg. And again, I'm leaving this V of hair here on her neck. So when I start up in here, I kind of start and skim off of some of the neck and then come straight down. Now their chest should actually be to the elbow, and she's got nice depth of chest as well, and she does have nice spring of ribs, so actually she really is a little cutie. And with a coat like this, with that poodle type coat that stands out from the body, you can actually go in any direction with these snap-on combs. So like on a drop coat, I would always follow the way the hair grows, so I would be coming down. But on a coat like this, you can go really in any direction. So I'm gonna, at this point right here, I kind of skim out so that I can scissor all that in after. And then the same thing on her back end. Come around this way. Is it okay for me to move out here? It's all right. So I find that point of rump, which is that pin bone right there. And at that point, I'm going to take my snap-on and I'm going to skim in so this back area is nice and close. If you pick up her leg, where that bend in the leg is, right through here, is where I'm going to come down to. So I'm going to skim to that point and scoop out. And then the same thing with her back legs. I want this to be a parallel line. I don't want to leave this big poof here because that's going to make her look like she's been riding a horse all day. So take this off, and then using my snap-on comb, I can just skim down. I'm saving a lot of time with scissoring. I'm cutting in my length. I'm taking off all that extra bulk. And it's really only with just a few swipes of your clipper. So you can really cut in a lot of your lines, a lot of your grooming by doing this. And then you just have to go back and kind of connect the dots with your scissors. So especially on like a standard poodle, it used to take me a minimum of 2 hours to scissor a lamb trim on them, and I've cut that down to an hour using my snap-on combs. So the combs really do make a big difference. And of course, in our shop, time is money, so I feel like I can please the customers. To them, they're still getting a scissor cut because it looks that good. And you're able to actually do more dogs in a day, if that's what you want to do. So same thing here. Just going to kind of skim this down. So I've got my nice parallel line going down. And take this off here. Again, kind of skimming into that top part of her thigh. Coming from the corner of her ear, taking this stuff right down, again, straight down into her leg. Now, if you wanted to, if you had a dog that was very straight in the front, what would happen is the bone structure on the front end of the poodle, this should be a 45-degree angle. So from the withers to the point of shoulder and back to the elbow should be a 45-degree angle. When they talk about a poodle being straight in the front, what happens is their withers are actually moved forward. So instead of getting this nice angle laying this way, it's more this way. So by taking out this piece right here, so what I do when I get to the front is I find that point of shoulder and I scoop this out. If you leave all of this, it creates fill and it creates a very straight front. So by finding that point of shoulder, and again, so I'm going, if you go by the dog's bones, you can't go wrong. So this is what you want to go by. So I'm find that point of shoulder, and I scoop in and take that out. Just skim it into the top of the leg. Okay, same thing on this side. I'm going to scoop that out. Stand up, baby girl. And I usually kind of skim out like just above the breastbone, but then I want it, because they should have a little bit of forechest. So, skim this stuff down. And then again, using that point of shoulder, I'm going to skim this off. And you can see how just by taking out this extra right through here, it sets her leg back under her. So I have my nice parallel lines when you're looking at her from the front. So this is going to come straight down and straight down here. We don't need to create any chest underneath here. So I'm just going to come in under and take this right off. Same thing on this side. And on your pet trims anyway, that usually tends to be an area that does mat a lot. It's usually anywhere where there's friction on the dog. So where the legs are moving, where the rear legs are moving, inside, the back legs, the armpit area, around the collar, the back of the ears. Those are usually the areas that the dogs do tend to get matted. So by doing this trim, it's still stylish, it's still very poodly, but we're also taking off a lot of that excess stuff that is going to cause a lot of matting down the road. Now, stand her up, nice and slow. Come right in, and I don't want to cut into any of that stuff right there, so I'm just gonna scoop this out. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to give her a little bit of a spritz. Just comb through her one more time. Kind of check and see if I missed anything. Just kind of skim over her one more time just to neaten up any scragglies. Because the more I can do with this, the less I have to do with my scissoring. Okay, so I'm leaving my neck, taking this nice and tight, and then we now have all of our lines set in. So basically all we have to do at this point is connect the dots when we scissor her all in. Oh, one other thing too. To really, if you have a dog that, and a lot of the toy breeds tend to be like this, but if you have a dog that's shorter in leg, longer in body, if you leave more hair on the inside, on the front of the back leg and the back of the front leg, that's going to help shorten them up and through here. You want to make sure that you get that tuck up far enough forward. If you set your tuck up too far back, the highest point of the underline, then you can take a square dog and make it look too long by putting the tuck up in the wrong place. So usually once I've blocked them in and I know exactly where the front is and exactly where the rear is, I'll take my snap-on comb and I'll go around. The tuck up should usually be about at the last rib, so I'll just follow that around and angle it forward, and that's how I'll carve in my my tuck up on my poodles. So that saves you a lot of time too. So just follow your rib cage and bring it right down into your elbow area. Okay. So there we go. Now she's all set to be scissored, and we'll come back in a little while and we'll finish her up and she'll be all done.